Today, we're going to dive deeper into Tesla's potential robotaxi business model. How will the robotaxi's charging network look like? Who will be cleaning and maintaining the taxis? We'll watch a video of Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi being interviewed and hear how he sees it playing out. We'll also see what Paul Boucher, the creator of Google, Gmail, and AdSense, has to say. And as a bonus, we'll also have an update on how Robotaxi will be launched in China. According to China news reports, 8 main districts in Hangzhou, China will be made available to pilot tests of self-driving vehicles from May 1st. I got Larry Goldberg joining us. Larry is a multi-entrepreneur. He's a regular in my channel. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you for having me.
So let's go right to Uber. This is a video that I have played before. He was interviewed in CNBC, and we've all been waiting to hear, what does the CEO of Uber think about electric vehicles, about Robotaxi, about Tesla? So let's watch what he says, and then we'll get your opinion on it.
Any shift in your mind about robotaxis? There was a period of time we used to talk about robotaxis probably every quarter. The state of robotaxis, where are they? And then we effectively stopped. You stopped that investment as well. Now we're starting to hear, and Elon Musk has sort of been in the background on this, but now he's very vocal about turning Tesla into a robotaxi company, and we're starting to see more technology that seems to actually be working. Do you have a different sort of view about this now?
Well, we think that the autonomous technology brings incredible promise in terms of improving safety, lowering prices, making mobility available for everybody, which we think can increase the overall market share of our services. And listen, I would never underestimate Elon Musk and Tesla. We're big fans of his. They're clearly the leaders in EVs, and we have a lot of Teslas in our marketplace. At the same time, I wouldn't underestimate what we bring to the table in terms of the Uber brand. We're Verb in terms of our matching, pricing, routing technology, our payments, fraud, identity, safety technologies as well. And so as a result, we think we're in a great position to work with any and all AV manufacturers as the technology develops safely, including Tesla, by the way, because what we can bring with this network is higher utilization of AV assets, and we think that's
do you see a sea change? I mean, there are people in the tech world who think that the new Tesla FSD, which is the full self-driving, which is now running off of AI, it's really the major shift in this, that there was a step change in what it's capable of doing, and that we now might be actually dramatically closer than we were a year or 2 or 3 ago.
I think the early promise that we see with newer AI models and imitation learnings, what we call internally AV 2.0, is very exciting. Now, remember, AV had very strong early promise as well. So early promise hopefully will result in faster development, and we'll see how that develops. And again, because of the demand that we bring, we can drive enormous demand to this promising technology. If it develops, we think it'll be a huge positive. It also allows a lot of smaller players to develop this technology. Just like you saw kind of in the early days, LLMs, they're all a bunch of big players, et cetera. You saw kind of open source, smaller models come in. We think the same could be true of the imitation learning models that we're seeing in the market. So it's pretty promising. We'll see how it turns out. We're going to be a player in the space.
Okay, so we're going to be a player in this space. You saw the stock fall about 6%. Tesla stock rises, theirs fall. There's many who believe that Uber is not going to exist. Autonomous driving is going to replace Uber, right? Because they're a rideshare drive that doesn't have electric vehicles per se, that needs drivers. And so their business model will just be complete upended. And then there's others who believe that Uber is going to be a big player. And I kind of got the sense, and tell me if I'm wrong, he's kind of like in a weaker position. And he's saying, we're going to partner with everybody. We think we have some place to play here. It didn't sound like that, we're going to win this thing and we're going to own it and all that. It was much more of like concern, but he covered himself well. What was your reaction to that video?
Don't underestimate Dara. Do not underestimate him. He's talking to Elon, and if he's not, he should be. And Elon's talking to him, and if he's not, he should be. Uber brings a lot to the table. Uber has a business. It's operating. It's a global brand, or at least a multi-regional brand. It's not global, but it's a multi-regional brand. It is a natural partner for Tesla in rolling out a scaled autonomous network, immediate scale autonomous network. Now, it doesn't mean that Tesla has to partner with Uber for all its work, and it could well be that Tesla have a competing brand to the Uber brand. And that's, I think, would do them fine. I think Uber would be happy with it, Tesla would be happy with it. And it's not to stop Uber using Tesla's technology and Tesla sharing some of Uber's technology. This kind of competition is long-standing in the Valley, and there's no reason why it shouldn't continue. This was Dara pitching for a partnership with Elon. And there's no doubt in my mind. And I think it makes sense. Look, operationally, autonomous cars are a challenge. Do not think that overnight Tesla's going to have, a million
Right.
owners putting their cars on the road. Not going to happen. We need scale. We need operational support. We need places for the cars to come back and get charged. I'm not sure, Uber has that. Hertz kind of more has that. Tesla has that to extent. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for added value from both sides.
Okay. I like that. That's what we're going to talk about today, right? The charging network, the fleet management network, who's going to clean and maintain these cars. I like what you said, which is it's very unlikely that they're going to just roll it out automatically in every region, but they need the supporting infrastructure. And sounds like because it's such a big deal, this whole program, it's not Tesla. Tesla will partner. You're saying maybe Hertz, maybe Uber for certain things. Hertz, you think is more likely, which I'm kind of buying into now. Hertz could do the charging for them. They could even, do the cleaning for them. I was thinking more like maybe gas stations. They could then transform into the support.
Do you really want the autonomous car business to experience the gas station service level? No, I don't think so. I think gas stations are insufficiently scaled. They're scaled in the sense there are many of them, but each one is a mom and pop operation. You don't want that. In fact, the further you get from mom and pop, the more reliable, the more scaled, the more capable the network's going to be. So no, gas stations are really, convenience stores, and their gas station component is going to go away, in due course.
Okay, let's continue this conversation. You had a conversation with Paul Boucher. So Paul is the founder of Gmail, Google's Gmail, and AdSense. And then he said this, right? When we bought our Tesla with FSD in 2016, I was skeptical that it would ever fully self-drive. But with the latest updates, it's getting pretty good, probably at the level of a median Uber driver. And unlike the Uber drivers, it keeps getting better. It's nice to see people finally jumping on and talking about FSD now that it's at this point. My guess is that Elon is currently in the process of betting the company on a massive scale-up of Robotaxi, pivoting Tesla from selling cars to selling point-to-point transportation. This is the fastest way to 10x revenues while also boosting margins, and obviously requires a very different supercharger strategy, among other things. Bad news for Uber, though. So he believes that that's the case. So he shared this photo. I don't know if that's his car, probably. And then he shared this, which is the, just the fact that he's updated the version 12.3.6. One person, Aman, said, if this works, it'll be the biggest business model transition possibly ever. On a scale of Apple's transition from niche PC maker to iPhone maker and app platform, yes, it becomes the iPhone of ground transportation. And then This Gabriel said, I'm a little lost. How would Tesla's pivot call for different charging strategy? The infrastructure still needs to be built, regardless of FSD or not, and probably more so once robotaxis hit the market and demand for the car soars. Yeah, give me a little explanation what you meant by that. Different locations and usage patterns, probably much more centralized around urban areas and combined with basic cleaning type services. And then you said correct. It becomes a depot type situation akin to a Hertz operation, but on a much larger scale. Since usage drops dramatically overnight, cars, probably the vast majority that don't belong to individuals with home charging, will have to come back to the depot. This will have to have cleaning and charging services, potentially along with the light maintenance work. I don't think many owners will be able to run their cars as robotaxis simply because of the cleaning. Yeah, and other service checks needs before and after a period of operation. It may be optimal for individuals to sign their cars up to the Tesla or other networks and have their cars initiate and finalize service to customers from the depots for quality assurance before and after a period of daily or periodic service. Great thinking there. Explain a little bit more of how you think that might work.
Yeah, I don't want to try and invent, the business model, but I'm trying to consider the components of what the business model needs. Firstly, people who rent a Tesla robotaxi are not going to charge it, and it's going to need charging during the day, possibly two charges during the day. Somebody's going to have to plug that in, supervise it, get it up, and clean it. The driver performs a cleaning service after every drive, possibly. Potentially. Sometimes you can drive the whole day, no problem. Sometimes every ride requires some attention to the car. So the driver not being present, that's not going to happen. So there are, several components to, the service that is going to be needed during the day to the car, and definitely during the night for the, full charge up, for the tires, for, windscreen washer fluid. Washer fluid may not be necessary. So there's all these components that have to take place, checkups, and then, the from a scale point of view, you have to actually physically maintain control of that car. So I think we're going to have some form of depot service, some form of place for the cars to rest at night. They could, theoretically park on the road, park on, wherever they can find a parking place at night. That's not a scalable, in my view, it's not really a scalable model. So, it's going to require a lot of organization. I don't want to try and build a business plan here, and I don't want to try and build an operational plan here, but I think these are the considerations that we have to give. And some organizations out there, for example, I mentioned Hertz, but I also mentioned Uber, have a lot of experience in that field. And then lastly, but not least, Tesla themselves have got service departments, have service operations in multiple locations. If we're not selling that many cars, or we don't care to sell cars, that could be a target for those locations as well. And also the nature of charging necessarily changes. If you can charge overnight, you don't need a supercharger. In fact, it's not an advantage to have a supercharger. If, on the other hand, you're charging on the run during the day, you will need superchargers. So you have to give thought to that. A lot of thinking has to go into this.
Yeah. This could be one of the reasons why Elon is redefining what the superchargers are. You don't need to expand them. What you need to do is go into the existing ones and maybe convert them to have, number one, more chargers. Two, maybe it's going to be, like the cleaning some way that there's people there that it becomes a depot. That could be one idea. Tesla just does it themselves.
Yeah, some of the supercharging sites are just not suitable. They're not in the right locations, and they're just not suitable for the kinds of services that need to be done. But you can split those services up. You can use the supercharging network for the day charges. You can have a depot for the overnight charges, and you can have a cleaning service that's independent of either of those. So I'm not steeped in the business to really know the right approach it would be fascinating to be able to sit in on Elon's conversations
figure
at
this
this
out.
point to understand where he's going. And look, he's going to learn. The firm is going to learn, and they're going to learn fast, and they're going to make a lot of mistakes. And we're going to get Reuters articles after Reuters articles talking about how this failed and how that failed and how the other failed. My projection is it's going to be a winner.
It's going to be a winner. But interesting that we're having this conversation, and I have to think through which partner, because Uber does not have, the depot locations. Even Hertz, may not have it that many. So then who could be doing it?
They
Yeah.
don't have the scale. Hertz do not have the
Yeah.
scale.
So we need to think this through. Okay, so another bit of news, just to update this, is China. So China, there's been more and more information coming out. This one coming from reports from China's news outlets. And basically 8 main districts in Hangzhou, China will be made available to pilot tests of self-driving vehicles from May 1st, according to a report by local outlet Guangzhou Evening News. The regulation doesn't specify the exact level of autonomous driving, but previously permits permitted for up to L4 autonomy have been granted. Hangzhou is the first city in China to define the specific process for autonomous vehicles on public roads through local legislation, and it is also the first city to enact laws for low-speed unmanned vehicles. So now Beijing and Shanghai, autonomous driving is only allowed in the outer suburbs. Just 5% of central Guangzhou is open for autonomous driving at this point. Now, Tesla's looking to get approval to test Robotaxi in Shanghai, but needs clearance from Chinese regulators before it can be fully rolled out FSD and collect the data required to train the software. But it looks like that they're making moves. Things are happening. And every day, it seems every week, we're getting news about what they're doing in China. So I think once they got the general nod of approval from the government, now you'll start seeing the cities and others reacting to it. And then we'll see what happens. But 8.8 sure sounds like there's going to be some sort of pilot announced there as well.
I love it. I predict China is going to lead the US yet again.
Yeah.
Using Tesla as the flag.
Yeah.
I mean, it is amazing to me that we have a president that does not realize the value of what we have in the resources of Tesla and of the brilliance of Elon Musk, and that this president constantly dog whistles to his team to investigate him and to, quote, look at him. It's painful to watch. It's painful to watch.
Yeah, it makes sense that China, right, had no presence in the auto industry. Now it has by all accounts, the leader in electric vehicle, right, industry. Now, if they come out and they go, we're going to go all in on self-driving. They already know self-driving is a done deal. It's going to be the future. They come out looking like they are the tech forward, the most technology-driven country in the world. Here's the U.S. doing backwards, with horse and carriage still.
Who have they chosen to be the flag leader in this?
I know.
I mean, it's incredible.
Well, because they know that Tesla is further ahead than the others, and they go, okay, look, let's go ahead and have him, and then maybe all of our either licensing with them or getting them to, we already know 2 of the Chinese car companies. Did you hear that was the president of, I don't think it's Huawei, it was the other one. He bought a Tesla Model S. He just came out saying that vision only is all that's needed, and FSD is amazing. I can't remember now, but
I think it's Huawei.
It could have been the Huawei CEO. Yeah, sorry. But, the point is that,
Either way, these guys actually are in the fray. They understand the business. They have shown incredible skill. I predicted on this show that BYD would be the first.
You did.
Secretary.
And
I still believe it. I think this is a natural marriage, marriage. And, this whole idea of lasers and mazes and tasers and all these different devices and, spending $100,000 on a car. I mean, all of this is going to just be, we'll look back at this time and we'll laugh. I mean, again, I'm reading Edison and I see exactly what he went through. Elon's going through the same thing. So bottom line is China's going to lead. A Chinese or multiple Chinese companies are going to sign with Tesla. They are going to, they're going to learn and implement FSD autonomy on Chinese roads well before the United States. And it is terrible that it has to be so.
It's very bold of you to have been saying this several months ago, because just step back several months ago and people will say, and obviously like, well, FSD is only fully trained in California and the United States, and it just started being trained in Canada. It's not even available to do FSD in China or Europe. And so they need to train it there first before it'll go at number one. It makes most sense in American. And then they will say, people said, China, like they have complete concerns about regulations and data privacy, and they don't want to have an American, having cameras all over, capturing all these roads. And all of a sudden, he goes there, shakes hands with the premier, and then he solves the 4 regulations that China was asking for. They actually met those regulations, and now there's talk about robotaxi there. So it is just a complete turnaround. BYD is the number 1 competitor, when in fact both parties, both executives have always been praising each other and they're partners with each other. So I mean, like you were saying something when it was very impossible that was even going to happen, and now all of a sudden it's a real possibility that BYD could be one of the major partners.
Herbert, you can say it. You heard it here first, but there's no doubt that China is going to lead. Look. The opportunity for Tesla is global. Mm. You learn to drive where? In the United States?
Right. Yeah.
Do you drive in
Canada.
Europe? You drive?
No.
Do you drive? Well, I drive everywhere in the world. I drive in Asia. I've driven in India. I've driven in, you name the country, I've driven there. And where did I learn to drive? I learned to drive on a farm in South Africa. So what I'm trying to say is that driving is not specific to a geography, and autonomy is not going to be specific to geography. I will admit that trying to achieve autonomy in India is going to be very tough. I will admit that, autonomy in Thailand is going to be pretty difficult. But in China, it's going to be a snap. And so, in my view, from a political point of view, from a practical point of view, and from a technical point of view, the probability is very high that China is first, and Elon and Tesla is first within China.
Okay, it's looking like it. Every week, I'm reporting more changes in what's happening in China. They're moving fast, as they typically do. It's like the one place where once, the government says something,
they make a decision.
They make it
good
happen.
And bad.
Good and bad. Yeah. So thank you so much, Larry. Follow him on his X account at Tesla Larry. Thank you so much, Larry. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.